the part-time commissioner position is sort of like sitting on the council uh, for the city.
Correct.
And has how does that part-time county commissioner position work out with you in your obvious busy profession?
Some weeks better than others. This week has been full of board meetings, etc. So it's been extremely difficult to get my paying job done. But I most of the time I'm able to juggle them pretty well and keep get enough time to. I like to work late at night, so I think I tend to do most of my engineering at night and do most of my government during the day.
And your county, like our county, has commissioners elected from districts that include ultimately in 4 districts that include the entire county. Is your district partially municipal and partially rural?
My district is actually 100% within the city of Hood River. I have, I think 85 or 90% of the city of Hood River is my district. So it's entirely an urban district, such as, as urban as Hood River is. Hood River is probably a little less urban than Grants Pass, but pretty similar.
The 4 district, the other 3 districts then are taking off in the rest of the county that goes all the way up to the peak of Mount Hood, I understand.
It does, yeah. So we have one district that includes a little bit of Hood River and then some areas around Hood River. Another one includes the city of Cascade Locks and the unincorporated area of Parkdale, and then the final one is centered on Odell, which is another unincorporated area. So they're pretty rural, pretty mostly orchards, farmland, that sort of thing.
And during your term and even before, as you have been publicly serving in Hood River, is the county commissioner plan very well received in the county?
Well, so we were actually, so as you know, it's home rule that allows counties to develop their own charter, and we were one of the first counties to go to home rule. So we've been doing it since the 1960s, I believe it was 66 or something like that. So I don't think anyone around here knows knows anything other than that. So this is the way it's been done, and people are quite familiar and comfortable with it.
Differences of approaching or differences of interest of the people they represent in the districts, and they bring those to the board along with their difference in ideologies or politics. How has that happened in your experience, or how has it been handled or resolved in amongst your 5 members of your commission?
Yeah, so our commission is four members by district and then a chair, and it's really a extremely congenial group. And as long as I can remember, I've been in Hood River for 27 years, something like that. The commission has been pretty functional, and it's for me, what I enjoy about it is that we have experts on different problems. So if we're working on something regarding agriculture and regarding orchards and policy related to that, I'm obviously going to go to someone who has an orchard or someone who runs a packing plant and talk to them about that and get that information. And the way our commission is set up, it's quite easy for me to do that.
Is there a particular makeup that you've had with the board as far as employment, retirement, self-employed, private business? Is it?
It's because of the limited pay to it. It's generally been folks who can afford to do that, can afford to take a little bit of time, and obviously the pay doesn't cover the amount of time we spend on it. So our commission has tilted a little bit towards the older edge of things, and folks who are well established in their careers and able to set their own schedules reasonably well.
Let's talk about the administration. You've recently hired a new administrator and gone through that process. And before we get to that, let's talk about the service of your administrator you've had. And and how that has worked between you and as a board member and the administration. That was Jeff Hexel, who had been there for 6 years. Could you give us a little information about how that's worked over the years and why?
Yeah, well, what I like about it is we're able to hire folks who are expert in administration who can focus on all the issues. You're running a corporation, a municipal corporation, but you're running a corporation with a significant number of employees. With I think we've got 5 or 6 collective bargaining agreements. So we're constantly involved in all of those technical details. And I would hate as a commissioner to have to be right in on the details. I wouldn't be prepared as a commissioner. I think most folks would not be prepared to deal with all the technical aspects of doing, bargaining with unions, et cetera. So it's been really good for me. The way I view it is that it is very positive that we can hire an expert.
And is there a particular attribute as far as the part-time commissioner's relationship with the manager that you found most effective? As far as the relationship, building a relationship of trust, can you describe that situation with me?
Yeah, and so we're just starting to work with a new administrator, so I'm still learning how she thinks and how she works, and she's learning how I think, and she has to learn, not just me, but the other 4 commissioners as well as her entire staff. So she's got quite a bit of work to do. It's a lot easier for us because we're just learning to work with one person. But mostly what I look for is someone who's going to always provide me with the information that I need, so that if I'm out in the public and people start asking me questions about something, I can't just look at them blankly and say, oh, I didn't know that was going on. Gee, that's a surprise. So the number one thing that that I think builds trust is that we're kept informed, and that when we have issues, we know that we can go and ask a question. What I should point out is, we are not supposed to be dealing with the rest of the staff on a regular basis. So there are many times where I have a question about taxation, or I have a question about elections, or I have a question about our court system. I go to the administrator and I ask her to get answers to these questions for me, and then it's her job to speak with the department heads and get that information. I mean, sometimes we take a shortcut, and I'll send an email which I'll CC her on as I ask a technical question on how taxation works. In fact, just last week I had an elections question, so I did that. But in general, we go through the administrator to get resolution to the informational issues, so it doesn't get confusing, because people have to understand that they work for the administrator works for us. And so we have to keep the lines clear so that so that there aren't folks who are confused and thinking that they should be taking directions from me, where I don't have authority by myself. I only have authority when I'm working with the other 4 commissioners. So keeping the lines clear it takes a little bit of exercise, but honestly, we haven't had any trouble with that in my memory.
Dispute resolution or differences in opinions or approaches by the various board members and the people they represent and come to the board meetings with. How has that worked out in your experience with the 5-person board? I'm sure you've served on boards with 7 people in the city or some other place, but how has it worked in your county and with your experience?
Yeah, so I have experience with 3, 5, and 7, and I will say that 5 is so much better than 3, and it's a bit better than 7, and I can kind of explain a little bit why. You wouldn't think that the number would matter that much, but the first thing that folks need to appreciate is that with these elected boards, there are state laws that basically say that because meetings need to be public, whenever you have a quorum of the folks, so a majority, so more than half of the members of the body meeting, that can technically constitute a public meeting if we're talking about anything regarding regarding county business. I mean, if we're at someone's wedding, that's a different thing. But if we're talking county business, it becomes a meeting. If there are, if you have a 3-member board, if you have 2 members in a room, that constitutes a meeting, and that should be noticed, and the public should be available, should be allowed to be present, to be part of that. And that can become really difficult physically to manage. In talking to my friends, I have a lot of interaction with other counties and other county commissions. It's really quite difficult because they can never have 2 of them get together to talk about any county issues. And so what that means, so if we have a county issue here that we're working on, I can grab 1 other commissioner and talk with them. I can't talk with 2 of them because that would make a majority, but I can talk with 1 of them. And what I find is what I like to do is I grab the one who I expect has the most different view from mine that there is, so I can better appreciate and better understand what their thinking is and what the issues are that they'll be considering when we actually get to deliberating and to voting on this. So having the 5 members means that I can always grab one, and like I said, I tend to grab the one who I expect to be most different from my thinking, and that has two positive elements. One is that I get to learn something, but the second is that it means that it's when you're working with someone, you sit down with them, when you have coffee with them, when you talk to them about something, you're far less likely to view them as kind of an enemy and to develop the sort of discord that you can see in some bodies. So I think, I can't prove this, but I believe that the 5-member board is the reason why we have such a congenial group. The people who I would disagree with most, I've sat down, had coffee with, and talked through issues, and now I recognize that, oh, okay, that they're actually coming to this from a reasonable position. I understand how they got there. Even if I disagree, I can understand it. Whereas if we had a 3-member board, I wouldn't have those discussions. So I might think it's like, that jerk, I can't believe he says those things. I don't know how he got there. My experience says 5 works. I would, if people were asking me how many members should you put on your board, I'd say 5.